Hello and welcome everybody. This is Neil with Crustaceous Studios, taking a look at this current cycle of FAB free assets over on FAB for Unreal Engine. This current cycle will end on June 30th at 9:59 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's a few things here that are pretty interesting, but I'm going to be honest, just to kind of give a little bit of a spoiler, I'm not too excited about this round, but we're going to take a look. There's still very valuable stuff that we can be able to look at. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So the three that we have this time around is that we have this Docs Volume 2 by Decagon Studios. We have these stylized characters that are modular by Poly Art Studio. And then we have this White Castle by Dmitry Dryzak. I hope I said that right. So let's go ahead and take a look over in Unreal. So let's go ahead and open up the docs level here. While this is loading, just a friendly reminder to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more asset reviews and tutorials. Every little bit definitely helps us out. So I really appreciate it if you can do those things. Great. So now that we're inside here, let's go ahead and take a look at our frame rate. And we can take a look and see just how this asset is actually loading up. Now, it claims to be low poly, but you can see here that I'm averaging about 50 frames a second, just a little under. So there's a lot going on, and this could just be this scene. But let's go ahead and play, and we can see it at real time. Everything jumps up to about 60 frames, but as we move around, you can see that kind of drops a bit. So it's really interesting to see how everything here is giving a heavy load. Now, I am running on a 3070 Ti, so my graphics card can be considered mid-range, even to some possibly low range. But I can typically run games at around anywhere between 100 and 120 frames a second without much issue. I know that running in the editor is going to put a little bit more of a load, but yeah, I find it interesting that it's considered low poly, and I'm still only averaging about 40 frames, as you can see here, anywhere between 40 and 60, depending on what I'm looking at. One of the other things that I find really interesting, I'm caught on this log, is how the water looks here. Now, to me, it looks like it's kind of grainy. It's most likely just how the specular highlights are working, but it gives it kind of this weird kind of grit and sheen, I guess, to it that I'm not too excited about. It just kind of makes the water look dithered. So it is, the movement is really nice, but you can kind of see it's only wherever the highlights are, so I'm pretty sure it has something more to do with the specular highlights than anything else. Everything is incredibly detailed. The texture work is really amazing. So for instance, like this pipe, the texture looks really, really, really nice. The wood grain, it's also really well put together. So there's a lot of detail that's put into this, but like I said, it claims it's low poly, but we'll see here in a minute that that's not really entirely true, because if we come over here to the overview level, we can take a look at all of these assets, and see here you can see my frame rate has jumped up to about 90 to 100 frames with just these assets. But if I take a look, for instance, just this sand dune here, if I take a look at let's do lit and wireframe first, you can see that there is a lot of triangles that are involved on this guy. And if we look at just the wireframe, we can see how detailed these really are. So I don't consider this low poly. Like, I know some of these have like undersides too, but there's a lot of detail. Like, for instance, like some of these little bits here have a lot of different planes to them, a lot of different triangles, and it just creates just a lot of a high poly count. Now, if we come down here and we take a look at our nanite visualization, and I take a look at the mask, we can see that some of these assets are nanite compatible, but not all of them are. So these dirt mounds, that means that the further we get away, the the less triangles that they have, which is nice, but once we get up really close, you can see how incredibly detailed it gets. But the nanite isn't on everything. So it's interesting how some of these here, like some of these docks you can see have just a ridiculous amount of triangles to them. Um, like for instance, this front wood plank here, we'll go back to the lit. Just this wood plank here, you can see how many triangles are actually there. So I would not consider this low poly, despite being advertised as such here as being modular and low poly. You know, if you want to use this pack for cinematics, that's great. But as far as like performance-wise, it is a really big hit on performance because some of these assets are just have way too much going on. So that's the dock asset pack that's free for this cycle. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the next asset pack is. Okay, we're going to be taking a look here at the White Castle by Dmitry Dryjak. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but let's jump in engine. It is really nice. It is beautiful. It kind of reminds me of something from like Legend of Zelda. Let's go ahead and hit play and we can jump in and kind of run around a bit. It is only the exterior of the castle, so this would be more so if you want to have something that's far off in the distance, or you know, you kind of walk in and you hit a loading zone and then you go to the interior. But there is a lot of really great detail work and a lot of really great look. It's got this really awesome profile to it that just gives it this really awesome, beautiful, grand look. One thing that's interesting to note as well is in this example gathering, the texture work on these pieces up here is not mapped correctly. It is this floor texture, but for some reason, and it's only in this example that this up here just gets really stretched out. I think that's possibly because for the example, it's actually one entire mesh that is here. So it's not even like these are individual assets that are placed in the example. It's like the person for their example map decided to build it all in their 3D software and then render it out as one giant mesh. If we take a look at the wireframe here, there is some detail, but it is laid out a lot better than than the dock pack. So it is better on performance, but I think a little bit of the performance hit that we're seeing here is because this is just one giant asset versus individually. But we can take a look over at the individual assets, which they are modular. So they're not all together, so it's just for that example. And then we can see here that the texture on these pieces is actually mapped correctly. So for whatever reason, it's just that example. There are a lot of really great detail pieces, which makes things really nice. Again, there are just these weird kind of texture mapping issues. I think these are meant to house some of these other things. So even though it's modular, the way that the texture is on some of these pieces doesn't really give you much to play with. You kind of have to build it that way, which is a bit of a bummer, but you can still be able to have some modularity. Again, I think this is more so for something that you would have off in the background and in the distance versus something that you're going to see really up close. So I think it's a cool pack, but yeah, this is, again, like I said, would be great for something that's like off in the background or far off, or you know, you hit a loading trigger that takes you to an interior of a castle or something along those lines. But let's go ahead and take a look at the final asset right now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is the Stylized Character, Modular Stylized Character Adventurer by Poly Art Studio. This is a pretty cool pack. One thing to note, it took a really long time for it to import into my project, so much so that I thought that there was an issue that it didn't come with the demo levels. And it took almost 30 minutes for everything to fully import. So keep that in mind. That might have just been my setup. That might have just been my internet. I'm not too sure. But if everything doesn't show up, don't think that it's broken. It's just give it some time to be able to um, download and get into your project. So let's go ahead and jump into the engine. So this here is the demo level for the stylized characters. So if we come here and we hit play, we can see we have all of our guy here. There's some really awesome animations. His clothes reacts pretty realistically, which is really great. We can get some nice secondary motion and cloth simulation here. And this kind of walks you through everything. So if we come in here, we can be able to change from the different characters from the male to female character, which is really nice. So there's two different versions. They do have two slightly different animation sets. I believe they're just their base core animation is set up to Manny and Quinn. So it's not like there's anything really big that's special there. We can change our material shading options. So now we're cell shaded. So we can be able to go into kind of that more stylized look, or we can click this and go back to our PBR. While it's still stylized, the shading is a bit different. If we zoom in using the mouse wheel, we can see we can change the material colors. So that's everything that you can be able to change on the character. So you can have some really nice different modularity to be able to create whatever different character that you want to be able to with the hair and the outfit costumes. Put the backpack on. Backpack also has its own animations, but now we can be able to pick things up. So there's some nice little modularity here. There's a control rig, which gives us the full availability. There are morph targets. If you take a look at the example video, fully be able to customize facial animations using morph targets. And then this material complexity, be able to take a look at what the different kind of complexity is for the shaders. So there's a lot of thought and effort that's in here, which is really, really, really nice. This one, before everything downloaded, I was going to say was the most disappointing. But once I finally got this example to finally be able to see everything and not have to hook everything up, this has easily become my most favorite one out of all of the assets that were here this time. One of the other things that you can be able to do too, if we hit the left Alt button, it brings up this menu, and we can be able to go into our customization here and be able to change a bunch of different things. You can be able to put things in to be able to create your character so that as they find equipment, they start to equip everything and change how they look, which is really, really, really cool. So that's this character. Really great for prototyping, really great for kind of getting in and getting started. So that was a look at this cycles of free assets that are offered by FAB. Again, these assets are available until June 30th at 9:59 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So definitely grab them while you can. Again, I think that they're great for prototyping, great for background work. The docks, I think, is really good for cinematics. The castle, I think, would be great for something in the background, or if you plan on having loading zones. And then the stylized character is really great for kind of getting up and running and testing things out in your game and having some modularity. And, if you're building something for like a demo, or you kind of want to skip the major character setup and have something that looks decent in your games as you're getting started. So yeah, grab these assets while you can. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, that really helps out the channel as we grow. Anything that we end up making once we become monetized will go directly towards development of future projects. And then you also get to see cool tutorials and reviews and stuff like that from assets. So I appreciate you guys taking the time watching this video. If you made it to the end, leave a comment on what you think your favorite asset is from this pack. I would love to be able to hear your thoughts. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Happy developing.